The Okavango Delta was breathing after the first heavy rains of the season. The air smelled of wet grass and distant storm clouds. Water spread like veins through the baked earth, filling long dry riverbeds and bringing life back to the land. It was early morning when Tomas Ebo, a field ecologist stationed in the Moremi Reserve, set out in his jeep to check the flood gauges and camera traps. Tomas had lived in the bush for 5 years. Tall, quiet, and observant, he was known for his patience and deep respect for the animals he studied. On this particular morning, with the birds crying overhead and frogs singing from every puddle, he followed the familiar track toward the Kubu crossing, a usually shallow part of the river that connected two floodplains. But the rains had changed everything. As he approached the crossing, Tomas noticed something unusual in the water: movement, erratic and panicked. He stopped the engine, grabbed his binoculars, and focused in. What he saw made his chest tighten. A young lion cub, no older than 5 or 6 months, was flailing in the current. The river had swollen overnight, and the water was faster than it looked. The cub's tiny paws barely reached the surface, its head bobbing and slipping under, eyes wide with fear. Tomas leapt out of the vehicle. "Damn," he muttered, scanning the riverbank for the pride. Nothing. No lioness in sight. Just this single, desperate cub being pulled downstream. He didn't hesitate. Tomas kicked off his boots, tossed his field pack aside, and waded into the muddy water. The current grabbed at him immediately, strong and cold. He used a branch to keep his footing, moving diagonally downstream to intercept the cub. The lion's head vanished beneath the surface again. "Come on, just a little closer," he murmured, teeth clenched. Then he saw the cub resurface, eyes wide, gasping, barely conscious. Tomas lunged. His hand closed around a soaked tuft of fur, and he pulled. The cub's claws flailed, raking his arm. It wasn't out of aggression, just panic. The ecologist gritted his teeth and wrapped the cub in both arms, keeping its head above water as he fought his way back to the bank. By the time he stumbled onto dry land, they were both drenched and shivering. The cub lay limp, gasping, and Tomas dropped to his knees beside it. "You're all right," he whispered, as if the cub could understand him. "You're safe now." The lion's chest rose and fell rapidly. Tomas opened his field blanket and wrapped the trembling body, checking for injuries. Miraculously, aside from exhaustion and shock, the cub seemed intact. But where was the pride? Tomas scanned the area, alert. No growls. No rustling grass. No golden shapes in the bush. It was likely the cub had strayed too far, perhaps chased something into the river, or the pride had crossed and left it behind. Either way, he couldn't just leave it. He carried the bundle of fur back to the jeep and laid it in the passenger seat. As the engine started, the cub raised its head slightly, then slumped again into the warmth of the blanket. Back at the field station, Tomas called the wildlife vet in Mon and arranged for a transfer. Lone cub, around 6 months. Near drowning. No sign of the pride. "I'm keeping him here for observation until you arrive." The next 24 hours passed slowly. Tomas hand-fed the cub water mixed with electrolytes, wiped mud from its eyes, and sat beside the small creature as it recovered in the shade of the research hut. He didn't name it. He wasn't supposed to. But in his notes, he began calling it Ripple. Ripple began to stir more the following morning. When Tomas approached, the cub gave a soft growl, not aggressive, more uncertain. It was the first real sound he'd heard from it. Later that afternoon, Tomas walked back from his solar panels and found Ripple sitting upright, still wrapped in the blanket, staring at him with wide, amber eyes. "You're stronger than you look," he smiled. The vet arrived in the evening, a kind woman named Dr. Ayandambeki, with years of experience in large predator rehabilitation. Together, they examined the cub. No broken bones. Slight infection in one ear. But otherwise, Ripple had pulled through. "He's lucky you were there," Ayanda said. "More like. I was lucky to see him in time, Tomas replied quietly. Ripple was transferred to a wildlife rehabilitation center in Mon, but Tomas kept in contact. Over the months, he received occasional updates. Ripple was growing, gaining weight, showing healthy aggression toward his handlers. But something else had shifted. The young lion, though wild, remained especially reactive to one particular sound, a recording Tomas had made of his own voice, speaking softly. Each time Ripple heard it, he would perk up, growl quietly, and press close to the fence. "It's like he remembers you," Ayanda texted once. A year later, Tomas was back at the river crossing. The water was low now, the delta drying under the late-season sun. He stood where he had once pulled the cub from the current and let the memory replay. That was when he heard it. A low growl behind him. Tomas turned slowly. A young male lion stood about 20 meters away, sleek and golden, his mane beginning to thicken. Not yet full-grown, but powerful. His amber eyes locked on Tomas, and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The lion stepped forward. Tomas didn't move. Another step. Then the lion let out a sound, not a roar, not a snarl, but a low, curious rumble. Tomas' heart pounded. "Ripple," he said quietly. The lion blinked, and sat down. A voice crackled from Tomas' radio. It was Ayanda. "We released a young male from the center 2 weeks ago near your sector. He wandered east. Could be him." Tomas lowered the radio. The lion stood, stretched, and walked toward the water's edge, right to the place where he had once nearly drowned. He sniffed the reeds, pawed the soil, then looked back once more before vanishing into the brush. Over the next year, Tomas would see him again. Always from a distance, always alone. Ripple had never joined another pride. But he stayed near the river, as if drawn to the place where his life had changed. Tomas never tried to approach. He never tried to tame him. That wasn't the point. But every time he crossed the Kubu River, he'd leave a voice recorder behind, playing a loop of soft human words, just in case. And some mornings, when the wind was just right, he'd hear an answering growl echo from the trees. Dear friend, thank you so much for watching our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel.